The term dead game gets thrown around a lot on the internet these days, from anywhere between games with small player counts, games that have not received any updates in years, or games that are a buggy mess, to the actual dead games that are unplayable now. For this video, I'm looking at the Steam port version of Gundam Battle Operation 2, a game that had a very shaky launch, with connectivity issues, and for a time a rampant cheating problem when it was ported over to PC. And some of my viewers never seem to be able to stop mentioning how awful it is in the comments section of my videos, even when I cover something other than Gundam games. So I decided to give this game a second chance, and see if I could spend a total of 100 hours playing it. The hub world is essentially the same as the PlayStation version, but it's unfortunately not cross-platform. That's mostly due to the fact that the game relies on peer-to-peer connections for matchmaking instead of having actual servers. That is, if you could even find a match, since everyone and their moms like to complain about how long the wait time is between matches. It'll probably be a while before I find a match myself, so might as well read a book while I wait.
Begin the mission.
Oh wait a minute, I'm actually in a match, and it's in space! Space, even on PlayStation, is not very popular, and with Steam having an even smaller player base, it's even less so here. Now, full transparency here. Although I don't have a lot of time playing on Steam, over on PlayStation, I do have over 1,000 hours in the game, so I'm coming into this game with the knowledge of what mobile suits to pick, and what weapons, along with certain playstyles. So my experience may not be an accurate representation of what an actual new player will experience. But that's not the intention of this video. The intent here is to see if the game is playable, and to see if I can spend 100 hours playing it. That right there is a Saiku Zaku from the Gundam Thunderbolt anime. It's not often seen anymore among meta players, but since I'm currently playing in a D- rating, there's a little more variety since the players at this point haven't conformed to any game metas yet. And now his friend is trying to help him out. Coincidentally, it's a full armor Gundam from the same anime series as the Saiku Zaku. Now, me taking on 2 players at once on my own would pretty much always be a big no-no in the higher ratings, since you typically always want to stay relatively close to your team. But since this is D-, I can sort of get away with it for a little bit. On the plus side, the longer I distract these two means that somewhere else on the map, my team is enjoying a 4-3 advantage. Well, it's not exactly 2v1 if you manage to take out one of them fast. Now it's 2v1 in my favor. I wanted to help out my teammate being chased by 3 guys, but this other guy is on my tail. Well, my guy, you wanted my attention. Now you have it. Planting the bomb on the enemy base feels like overkill based on how much we're already winning by, but I've played enough on PlayStation to know that a for sure win can still turn into a loss if you're not careful. Well, that was rough. For the other guys, anyway. I clearly don't belong in D-. Them having 3 raids and no supports probably didn't help, at least not in this case. If you're new here and are unaware of how this works, this game has a 3-class rock, paper, scissors system. Generals in blue are frontline tanks, who have type advantage against raids. Raids in red are mostly faster and have type advantage against supports, but are also more squishy. And supports in yellow are typically slower with more firepower and have type advantage against generals. Well, I guess it'll be a while before I find another match.
Begin the mission.
Oh wait, never mind. This time I'm playing as a Hyzak custom support. I almost never see anyone use this over on PlayStation. In my case, I don't have a lot of suits to pick from since this is still a relatively new account. I have very little experience with this suit, which is why it's the perfect time to practice with it while I'm still at a D rating. This match is also a little more accurate to the usual experience per match like that on PlayStation. At the end of the match, I found out that the other team had 3 supports, which might explain why I couldn't do as well as before, and also why our raid got top score, since he had 3 supports to feed off of. The rest of us just had to stay alive long enough to give him some openings. And since I was a support for this match, I would much rather have the other team use 3 supports instead of 3 raids. After this, I went back to ground matches, where most of the player base is. And that's where I had this gem of a match. We keep hitting each other, but no one is taking any damage. If you never played in a match like this, can you really say you've ever played GPL 2 at all? Unfortunately, I ended up losing my recordings from when I was in ratings D and C. The only ones I could find were these 2. I was actually disgusted with this match, specifically with this one certain teammate of mine who ended up cheating. This was the only match in my entire 100-hour run where I ran into a cheater. I made an entire video about it if you're curious as to what I really had to say about it. But to summarize, this guy is total trash and needs to be kicked out of his mom's basement. Maybe even find a job and learn how to talk to a girl without being a creep. Sorry, not sorry for saying that. For this one, we were losing, and we're for sure going to lose the match. So I figured I would plant the bomb and hope for some luck. I managed to find a good hiding spot and waited for these guys to pass. I wasn't expecting for there to be 2 of them, but practically the entire team showed up. I took out one guy. As for the other guy, it looked like he got hit by some friendly fire, and was then taken out by one of my teammates. I don't really like rubbing it in, especially if no one on the other team was being toxic to me, but I unintentionally added a little insult to injury by capturing his mobile suit. And luckily, that ended up being enough to give us the win. Okay, so full transparency here again. No one on my team wanted to play as a general. We had 2 supports and 2 raids. When this happens, I tend to get a little petty and pick whatever I want. So we went into the match with 3 raids and 2 supports, and no generals. This map is pretty much built for raids and mine anyway. For most of the match, things don't exactly look all that great for us. We do get an early lead, but that quickly goes away. And from there on out, it becomes a struggle of us just trying to keep up. The other team would get ahead by 2 or 3 scores. We would catch up, and then they'll score another 2 kills again. Until finally, we pull ahead in the end. And with that win, I move up into the B ratings, where it was still more or less the same in terms of skill level matchups. That's also where this happened. Before they added these things to the game, I used to like Iron-Blooded Orphans. After this though, I don't think I'm ever watching that show again. How did they make this more annoying than the Destiny? BB Studios, how are you making me hate Iron-Blooded Orphans more than Gundam Seed Destiny? Stop it! I don't like this witchcraft you're playing with. At this point, it had become clear that the people who would frequently comment that this game was unplayable were either wrong or had not played it since it launched on Steam. I suppose it could also be that their PCs aren't capable of handling this game so well. This footage was recorded on a 5060 RTX gaming PC. I was also previously able to play the game on a 3060 laptop about a year ago as well. Or maybe they simply played it at the wrong times, since I mostly only play the game around 8 PM Pacific Standard Time. That's usually around the best time to find matches, and it's really only in rated mode where you'll frequently find a full lobby. Unfortunately, for the more relaxed lobbies in quick match mode, that place is essentially a ghost town for most of the time, which is a real shame since over on PlayStation, quick match mode is where someone can experiment with new mobile suits they're not yet used to. Over here on Steam, once you get to the higher ratings, you tend to get locked into using the same suits if you're constantly worried about your rating. Don't get me wrong, the game still has problems, but as I played my way through 100 hours in, I was still able to find matches in a relative short amount of time. Granted, it's usually with the same 20 to 30 players. At least that's what it felt like. The Steam charts, on the other hand, show that there are a lot more than 30 players. It also still gets weekly updates. The quality of those updates may not be all that great, but they do keep up with a consistent schedule. So, while it may not be thriving, it's not exactly dead. Yet. I say yet, because Bandai did famously kill off Gundam Evolution after about a year. And it did seem like Bandai really did like that game over this one. It wasn't my intention to see how far I could level up within 100 hours, but since rating match mode was the only place I could find full lobbies, that just unintentionally ended up happening. Towards the end, I pretty much gave up on space matches altogether, so I could focus more on increasing my rank on the ground. A ended up being the highest I was able to get to in that amount of time. There were some opportunities to get to A+, but luck just wasn't on my side in those later matches. If I had more time, or if I had never spent time in space in the beginning, maybe I could have gone higher on the ground. This match with a G7, or G07, whatever you want to call it, was the one that got me to A. It was the one that got me back to A, I should say, since I did make it to A earlier, but I ended up losing the following match, which knocked me back down to B+. After this match, however, I ended up staying in A until my 100 hours came to an end. The meta on PC is pretty much the same as on console for this game, down to the stubborn support and raid mains who will stick to their class, even if the team already has two of either, or even the occasional stubborn general mains who are too scared to play either of the two other classes. In D and C, this could be forgiven because newer players either don't know any better, or don't have a lot of mobile suits to choose from. A and S players don't have this excuse though, thus proving that, just like on console, ratings don't really mean a whole lot. It's not exactly the same thing as going platinum in some other game with a much larger player base, and a larger talent pool. Here, since rating is really the only mode to play in, even though it may be taboo to say, some players just want to chill. Now, to quickly debunk a myth about this game, when playing in D and C, it's assumed by many that it's very difficult to find a match in those lower ratings. As long as it's in rating, however, and during peak hours, so around 8 PM Pacific Standard Time, it's actually not difficult to find a match. The downside is that because rating is the only option, outside of custom matches, skill-based matchmaking is even more of a thing. While I had no problem climbing through the ranks, I can only imagine how difficult this makes it for new players who finally start performing well in matches, only to then be punished by being paired up with either more skilled players right after, or players who have a lot more fancy and shiny mobile suits to choose from. I don't really have a lot more to say. I tried to interview someone who plays the game on PC, but our schedules didn't line up, and communicating with other players is pretty difficult in this game. There is a chat box we can use in the hub world, but almost no one uses it, and there is no voice chat option. But once again, that's not the point of the video, and I've discussed this game's problems in other videos. I'm just here to show that this is still playable on Steam, and it's still not dead yet. Also, this was my last match before I ran out of time. That's all I got. Take care, and see you later.